The Master Tavern Keeper's History of the Old World. And so it was, back in the 57th year of the 7th century of the imperial calendar, that the dwarf prospector Thori Grundriksson led an expedition from Karaz-Akarak to the hills below Cragmere, previously known as the dwarf hold of Karak Varn. However, it was not into the flooded and abandoned dwarf halls and mines themselves, nor even the immediate area around Black Lake. Instead, it was to an area some distance away from both, unknown to others at the time. And there were a couple of reasons for this eschewing of the destination of previous expeditions.
Oh, yeah. And so what were these reasons, Master Tavern Keeper?
Well, the first was that particular area around the Old Hold was considered simply too well known to the enemies of the dwarves. It had effectively become something akin to an arena to square off against the most dangerous denizens of the mountains. And so this meant that any trek there was not going to be particularly profitable. And the fact that the area around the hold had already been well plundered, no doubt also played into the difficulty of getting good returns on the investment of mounting an expedition to Karak Varn itself. And that was assuming you even survived at all. For many a dwarf, the thinking was that the balance between risk and reward was simply tipped too heavily towards the former. However, the second and real reason that Thori did not go directly to Karak Varn was purposefully hidden until much later. It was that Thori had actually found a different prize to that of previous expeditions. A prize overlooked, so to speak, and one that would potentially yield great wealth for Grundriksson, but with much, much less risk.
Och, so what was that then?
Well, the story goes that a year or so before embarking on his fateful expedition, Thori had inherited a great number of items from his cousin, who lived down south in Barak Var, the famous dwarf port. His cousin was also a miner, but had recently passed away in a tragic cave-in on the Ungdunin to the north of the hold. Thori went to help deal with his cousin's belongings and, personally, ended up taking possession of a great number of items. Upon Thori's return to Karaz-Akarak, he began to go through and catalogue all he had received. There were many old family heirlooms, picks, lanterns and the like, some rings and books, but mostly it was volumes and volumes of old mining documents. This happened to include a cache of ancient reports from a prospector in Karak Varn itself, during its heyday, before the fall of the hold. They detailed the location of an as-yet untapped rich mining opportunity, a place where veins of gromril and seams of ores and gems lay undisturbed in the caves to the west of Karak Varn. According to the report, it was a veritable fattened pig, ready to be spit roast, and, as I'm sure you all know, dwarves love a good spit roast.
Oh, yeah. They most certainly do.
Anyway, Thori went to the mining clan elders with a plan to mount an expedition and, with their backing, blessings and advice, he assembled himself a cohort of young up-and-coming like-minded dwarf miners and warriors to accompany him on his adventure, as he began to call it. The number was not great, but what they lacked in boots on the ground, they made up for in raw skill and enthusiasm. With his fellows chosen, and quickened by his honeyed words, he began preparations for the journey. Thori was able to secure enough funds to purchase many kegs of blasting powder, brand new shiny picks, non-perishable food and ale, and invest in numerous dwarf mining carts to carry everything they would need. Karazakarak, in the year 657 of the imperial calendar. And so, on the morning of the longest day of the year, Thori's expedition set off towards the foothills of Vandraj. The relentless, steady beat of dwarf boots and iron-shod hooves, ever urging them on to their destination throughout their journey. Amongst the dwarves who joined Thori were the two young clansmen, Dorin Heldour and Katalin Kandoom, although the two did not yet know each other. Both had the role of protecting the dwarf baggage carts and the ever so important professional miners that accompanied the expedition, and it was in this role that the two became acquainted. Oi! When Thori said he takes on an adventure, did you imagine there'd be so much walking?
I did not, clansman.
Ah! No need to be so formal. Please call me Dorin, of the Heldours.
Ah, I met your father once. A fine warrior. Call me Katalin, of the Kandooms.
I will. Well met, brother. Ah ha ha ha! I like the sound of that. Let the adventuring begin already. And so, the expedition left the Everpeak of Karazakarak, journeying west along the old dwarf road as it left the mountains and cut its way through the black deeps, those dark, brooding forests that cover the foothills between the Black Mountains and those of the World's Edge Mountains, and are infested with beastmen, giant spiders, and forest goblins. As the expedition progressed, edging closer and closer to the infamous Blackfire Pass, many bands of goblins were encountered. Kill the grubby! And the greenskins and their arachnid mounts that leapt out from those gloomy places were slaughtered. However, before reaching Blackfire Pass, the expedition left the road where it branches onto the South Road that heads down to Barrack Var, but instead headed north at the crossing over Skull River. Here they followed one of the waterway's tributaries up to Blackwater, through the darker depths of the Forest of Gloom, almost immediately coming under attack from packs of half-starved, gnarly, grizzled beastmen.
Hack down those filthy beasts!
The beastmen that crossed blades with the warriors of the dwarves were hacked to pieces.
Oh, yeah, but if they were traveling along this Skull River, could they not have traveled by boat? It would have been safer.
Ah, yes, indeed, it would have been, but they were going upstream, and many dwarves are not at their happiest when they're stuck on some wood, bobbing about in the water. Anyway, steadily the expedition made their way north, along the riverbanks, eventually leaving the forests and a trail of its dead denizens, and came up onto the mountainous foothills that flanked the river as it wove its way up to the lake. Things were quieter for a time from this point on. Upon reaching the lake, they avoid coming too close, and instead followed the maps and instructions in Thori's possession until they came to the entrance to a series of caves. They lit their lamps and proceeded inside, and soon found what they sought. Exposed veins of gromril, here, there, and everywhere. Over the immediate coming years, the dwarves excavated tunnels, carved out shafts, and extracted large quantities of the ore. During this period, Dorin and Katalin occupied themselves patrolling the area around the new mine, seeking out, killing, or at least repulsing, the orcs that they found and ensuring that the mine remained a secret. Don't let them get away!
Cut them off at the knees!
And this they did until their tenure with the expedition came to an end, and they returned to Karazakarak. Both of them veteran orc slayers, with a taste for treasure and adventure.
But just wait to crow the cock there, Septimus. What happened to the mine? Does it still exist?
No. Much later, apparently the mines were found and destroyed by the Skaven that occupied Cragmere, and the mines were abandoned. As far as I know, no subsequent expeditions have had anything like the success that Thori enjoyed. It was a brief flashback to the days of glory, but you can never go back to anything in life. What is done is gone.